Hey, good morning, everybody. My name is Mike Connor. I'm here with the Psych Sheet podcast. We've got somebody that y'all probably remember, Jerry Chen from the University of Pittsburgh. Jerry is now, I just heard this and it's so funny to hear, he's a master swimmer. Yes, he says he's a master swimmer, but he finished fifth last week at the U.S. Open. Yes, a master swimmer who finished fifth in the United States Open. Jerry, welcome back to the Psych Sheet podcast. So pleased that you were able to join us today. How are things going, buddy?
Oh, things are great. Yeah, last week was US Open. Had a great time. My first big meet out of college. Now, like on my own, with that kind of the swimming, kind of like my own accountability. It's been great. I'm still loving the sport now, but now it's back to real life, doing homework in school, managing it all. But it's going. It's going.
You mentioned to me that you have some finals that you're already in the midst of right now. It is mid December ish. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing academically in addition to your fifth place finish at the U.S. Open.
Yeah, so I am currently in my one of 2 years of my two master's programs here at Pitt.
Two master's programs. Are you out of your mind, Jerry? I mean, come on.
I must be. I must be. I
You
hate free time apparently.
and you're swimming. You're still training. I mean,
Yeah.
that's amazing. That's amazing. We'll get into that dedication in a moment, but tell us a little bit about your master's program.
Yeah. So I'm doing, like I said, two master programs. My first one is in computer science,
Mhm.
which I actually started some of my classes in my undergrad, so I was able to kind of overlap the two. And my second degree is in sports science, which is kind of breaking down sport, learning how to provide contacts and improvements and optimizations to
Mhm.
coaching staffs, to the athletic trainers, to dietitians, to optimize performance. And you know, uh, performance has always been something I've been passionate about. I mean, I always push myself as hard as I can. I'm always looking for ways to get better. So it was kind of like an easy, natural second choice
It
as my
yes.
passion project.
It was, and I'm so glad that you found a passion that you can do while you're still swimming, while you're getting your master's in computer science. I mean, you're the whole package there, Mr. Chen. You're the whole package.
Thank you.
Congratulations to you. Absolutely. What we want to talk about a little bit today on the Psych Sheet podcast is I'd love to get your perspective on what your pre-race routines are. So when I think of practice, it comes with all the stretching, the warm-ups, the primary sets, kicking and underwaters and turns, all of that. But I teach that practice is more than just working hard to strengthen your muscles and your aerobic capacity and your cardiovascular fitness. I maintain that it is to treat your body or to teach your body what to do in racing situations when your body says no. Your body says, "Oh no, I've hit this limit. It hurts too much." And yet we know that your mind has the ability to override the body and you can continue to move in that direction. So the mind says yes, the body says no, and I maintain that when you go to practice, you practice how to get through that wall. And I'm wondering what your perspective is and how you learn to push through the physical pain and let the mind continue to take you to a fifth place finish in the US Open, as an example.
Yeah, so definitely training the mind in practice is something that you got to do every single day. Like practice is not just for the physical side. I mean, yes,
Exactly.
there's a lot of physical benefits like to training, and coaches will harp on that, make
Yes,
sure
they
you're doing your
will.
aerobic, doing your sprint work, your lactate that sets, and even the easy stuff, the recovery, the warm down.
Mhm.
But on the other side of that is you got to get to a place in practice where it either hurts as much or hurts more
Mhm.
than the race because I oftentimes at the end of the day, the intensity of the race will be higher than the practice because how rarely are we doing like a full 200 breaths, for example, in
Yeah.
practice, all out, just one rep?
Yep.
Like, even if you're doing repeat 200s and it's like maybe like the send 1 to 5 and that last one is all out,
Hmm.
it's never going to be the same intensity as just one rep go all out, you
Yes.
know?
Agreed.
So in those like reps, you gotta remind yourself that no, you gotta push to that, try to get as close to that intensity as possible. Try to feel that pain, remember that pain, and at some point it's like just embrace it. You know,
Hmm.
you shouldn't try
Sure.
to avoid
Sure.
it. You gotta know it. I always say the 200 breaths, for example, again,
Yes.
is it's gonna hurt.
Yes,
So
it's gonna hurt. Yes.
expect it, embrace it, and love it.
Yes.
So
Indeed.
yeah, definitely some of the ways I kind of get through that is when you got visualization and just making sure you don't have to get to that intensity like in bed. Just like you can
Exactly.
think,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And imagine yourself at that intensity and imagine yourself pushing through. Imagine yourself pushing through and you will actually get better at it.
Absolutely, absolutely, Jerry. And I appreciate you're talking about the 200 breaths because we both understand how much that really hurts. You hear all the other strokes talk about how much they hurt. I hear that. I've done most of the other strokes. I've done most of the other events, but I tell you, there's levels of pain in the 200 breaths that you just don't find in any other stroke at any distance. So I understand exactly where you are at there. And I think that I agree 100% with what you're saying about pre-race routines and getting in practice, teaching yourself, your mind, how to get to that point and even beyond that point. And I like the fact that you brought up visualization because that's one of the main things that I harp on all the time. I'm working with all these kids and it was pretty weird. I had worked with this one person for about 3 or 4 weeks, and she had been plateauing over the last 2 years or so, and was doing okay, but not quite as good as she expected to do, and she didn't know what the issue was. And we started working on some visualizations and a couple of other things that we'll talk about in a few moments. And when we unpacked some of the silliness that she was believing about what she could do or what she should do, that next weekend she went out and set a state record. She set a state record in the first freaking meet of the year when you're really not in the kind of shape that you think you should be in, and she went out and she did it anyway. And it was from that moment that the power of the mind became so clear to all of the other swimmers who are part of the group, who are saying, that is so cool. I can't wait till my meets are coming up because I'm doing the visualization right now and I'm doing this thing. And it really makes a big difference. Tell us how your visualization goes, especially now that you're doing two masters, you're still training, you're still going to the US Open, you're still standing on the podium, and you're still not done with visualizations. You're still
No.
doing the same things, right?
Yeah, yeah. So it's definitely shifted in the past couple years. Like in the past, I would have to like either watch a video of swimming and then have to, but I'm getting to a point where again, visualization is like a muscle. You got to train it.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's just all practice. So I'm getting to a point where I can sort of just like close my eyes and start thinking. I can start to feel it. So I do kind of like two different types of visualization. I do mainly one, especially going into meets, is like visualizing the race, and that it requires just kind of like knowing my stroke counts and knowing my tempos and seeing how well I can do if I can race that race. So when I
Sure.
get up on the block um, on meet day, it feels
Mhm.
familiar. And that was
Yes.
a big thing at the US Open. I try to visualize as much details as possible. Like I've been to Greensboro, I know the pool so many
Exactly.
times.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know what the call room looks like. I
Yes.
imagine myself walking out,
You're right
all the
there.
people out, right? The more details, the better. And
Yes.
again, that comes with practice. The other type, again, is think about practice, think about what you want to feel in practice, what's the goal of the practice. It could be done either like before, right before practice, or even just like I said, in bed. I like to do it for me, visualizing about something somehow helps me wind down and fall asleep.
Wind
Might not
down,
work.
really? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm the opposite, but okay, you go, guy. You
Yeah.
go.
So I like to do it in bed at night. But just again, just imagining yourself in practice, knowing if you have an idea of what the next practice is, for example, if it's going to be like an aerobic threshold set,
Sure. Sure.
imagine yourself what kind of pain will you be dealing with? Like threshold is going to be very different from lactate, like
Yes.
doing repeat fast on high rest.
Yes.
Threshold is fast, high intensity, but low rest. So that pain is different. So imagining that pain again and just thinking about like, how am I going to react when I feel that pain? Am I just going to
Mhm.
shut down? Ideally, no. You're going
Ideally,
to
no,
imagine
exactly.
yourself, you're going
But
to
that
tell
thought's there.
yourself,
That thought to shut down because
exactly.
it hurts so badly is there.
Yeah.
I know that. I know that thought. Yes.
Yeah, but then during the visualization, just picture yourself in that pain, but still pushing through, still going fast, still giving your best. And that trains your brain to when it actually happens, you're gonna keep pushing through. Because that's what the
Exactly.
reps is all about repetitions.
Exactly. Exactly. And you make the point that it doesn't hurt when you're in bed. The pain of breaking through that 200 breast, it doesn't hurt as much in the bed. And I don't could never use it to wind down. I would it would rev me up and I couldn't get to sleep for anything at times. But I understand exactly what you're saying and I'm glad that you found a way that you can sort of shut off your mind while you are visualizing and doing the tremendous work that you are doing. Jerry, there are a number of other self sabotaging aspects that I teach the kids of Psych Sheet here about dealing with, and I'd like your perspective on this. At some level, the the athletes think that they're not enough, that some aspect of themselves is not enough. And I don't know what that means to them. I just know that I can use muscle testing to determine what the level of not enough is. Then there's the next one, which is sort of I'm not worthy. And it's hard to be an Olympic champion and feel that you're not worthy. Those two things just don't intersect at all. They just don't, okay? What are your thoughts about not being enough or not being worthy? Because I remember we talked about you going to the University of Pittsburgh and you were okay swimmer, but you weren't quite the guy you are right now. How did you overcome your not enoughness or your not worthiness to get to 6 years of swimming competitively and still placing at the US Open and getting two master's degrees at the same time? That doesn't tell me that there's not enough or not worthy in your future.
Yeah, so I think thinking of yourself as not worthy is like a double-edged sword at
Mhm.
times. And it's still something that I struggle with. I'm sure a lot of Olympic champions struggle with. It's not something that just like goes away. You know, like you don't achieve something and just say like, oh, this is enough. Oftentimes, like high performers do or are driven by that feeling of that self-worth, but you have to keep it in check if you're
It
going to
can
be
be. It
successful.
can be. Yes.
Yeah, right. So I remember coming into college feeling that I'm just lucky to be here, to be swimming on a college team at a Power Five conference in the ACC. Like I should not be here. That's what I was thinking. And
Really.
you can think of it as, man, I can shut down and like it could become a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Sure.
Or you can think of it as, I'm really grateful. I'm really thankful for this opportunity. I'm just going to try my best and make the most out of it.
Mhm.
So I think those self-sabotaging thoughts kind of comes down to how are you going to respond? I think the how you respond is something that life is kind of like driven by. Like there are so many things that are out of your control, but what matters is how you respond to them. This is
Yes,
one of those things.
indeed.
So conquering it is not necessarily about just sort of moving that self-doubt, that self-worry, but embracing it and learning how to use it to your advantage and keeping it in check, making sure that you're not exaggerating it, right? At the end of the
Yes, yeah, exactly, exactly.
you have to be objective with yourself. And I think that's sometimes really hard because we either want to be really hard on ourselves or not hard enough.
I agree. I agree. Thank you for that. There are a couple of other of these self-sabotaging aspects that I'd like to talk to you about. How about the aspect of, and you sort of hinted on that a little bit, not belonging. Here you are at a
Mm,
Power Five conference, and you came in with good recommendations and all that other stuff, but you didn't come in with the swimmer that you left with. Okay, so you might have wondered, do I belong here? Am I really made for Power Five or Power Four, as it now is? And am I capable enough? Do you have put limits on your capability and your capacity as a freshman or sophomore in college, Jerry?
yeah. So I think again, looking back, right, I thought that, like I'm lucky to be here. My I actually almost quit because I thought I couldn't take how hard it was.
Hmm.
But when I see and I look around, I see other people doing well. I see other people pushing their limits, trying their best, and they are able to go times that to me were absurd. Like I went 52.99 like this past weekend.
Yes.
I would never have thought I remember in high school looking at seeing that time, those levels, and I'll be like, that's great. Like, I don't know
That is,
how
no, that
anybody
is
ever goes that
crazy,
fast.
Jerry. Let's be clear. That is crazy. You were not nuts for thinking that, but that is tremendous. But you did that.
Yeah, but
You did that.
yeah, yes, I did. And then to kind of like continue that path is just like I just thought to myself, if other people can do it,
Mhm.
I can do it. And it might be a different way of doing it, but if I could do it again, I see what's possible. I don't put any caps on my ability because I think, man, if they can do it, I can do it. I just need to work a little harder.
Absolutely. Okay. Okay. Good deal. And so that gets you through the not belonging and the not capable and capacity stuff. How about that you're not perfect or you're not significant? Two more of the six self sabotaging aspects. Do you feel that, your stroke's just not quite right? Your kick's just not quite right. My hip position in the water isn't quite right. I got to go do this because I'm not perfect, and that's going to slow me down, and then I'm not going to be good enough, and then I'm not going to be worthy enough, and then all of the other stuff starts trickling in. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, so this is definitely something I struggle with because I love to think about swimming, as you can tell. So thinking about like my hip position and how I feel in the water
Sure,
is literally the first thing on my mind like every single day.
I'll bet.
Um, but and he used to really, really haunt me at championship meets. Not so much at like dual meets because like when you, especially in college, that that's not the meet, like, that's not the peak meet.
Sure,
And
sure.
I'm able to go really fast with them, but when it comes to ACCs, I just wasn't able to drop a lot of time because I was just so stressed about, "Man, something feels off." Warm up, like, my kick doesn't feel as strong as it did, like, last week. My legs
Sure.
are tired, like, that breath control felt kinda hard, and it gets you to start thinking really negative, and at the end of the day, you know, people talk about feeling is overrated. Like, you can feel
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah. Of
crap
course.
and still go fast, and
Yes, of course. Yes.
something that, the coach here, Chase Kryler, said to me is, I the goal at those meets is not necessarily to be 100%, but to make your 95% so good that it still does the job, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
Because no one's gonna have a perfect race. You're
They're
never gonna
not.
feel the top of top at I mean, maybe you will, but that's cool. But
Sure,
most of the
sure.
time you won't, like, and you just got to make sure that 95%, that consistency is still really has a really high ceiling.
Exactly. Well, I appreciate Coach Kreitler saying those words to you, and you saying it to our listeners as well. Jerry, in addition to those six self sabotaging aspects that we talked about, I've added three others that I'd like your point of view on, because you're taking your masters in performance, and this is the kind of stuff that we're talking about. Would you talk a little bit about the role of nutrition in a high school and a college person's swimmer's life, sleep, and their emphasis at doing well at school? Because if you're not doing well at school, it takes away from everything else,
Oh,
to the point that
yes.
you don't even get invited back the next year. If you know what I'm saying, you've got to take care of the school, and obviously, nutrition and sleep are a big part of just living the college swimmer's dream.
Yeah, so all those three things, especially for student athletes, is probably way more important than to like pro swimmers. Obviously, the pro swimmers don't necessarily have school, but and but the way I see it is like at the end of the day, adaptation and getting better is all about stress. Recovery is about
Got it.
stress.
Yes. Yes.
And that stress can come from practice where you're pushing your body um, to through aerobic workouts and your heart size is getting bigger, your VO2 max is getting higher, your lactate threshold is going higher, right? But on the other hand, you can get stress from school, and that will also affect what how you do in the pool, how you recover, because your body doesn't know the difference between mental and physical stress. It just
Agreed. Yeah.
knows stress and it just reacts to it. So I want to speak specifically to school for this instance.
Okay.
But if your stress about school is really, really high, you're not going to be able to take as much stress in the pool. You're, and and I'm sure you can feel the other way where if you are really, really pushing it in the pool, sometimes you're really mentally fatigued at the end of the day and you
Yeah.
can't
Sure.
do as
Of
much.
course. Yeah. Yeah.
So you need to find that balance. It's like almost like a scale of one like priorities. Like if it's supposed to be a big training block, like maybe it's important to try to um, push that swimming in school. Like you gotta stay on top of your recovery.
Sure.
So it's all about like managing. So I always think the better you do at school, the lower the stress you are.
Hmm.
Staying on top of staying organized, staying on top of your assignments, doing
Exactly.
well on tests means more capacity of stress from training means more
Exactly.
adaptation.
Exactly.
So that that's why school is such a, like a big deal. Getting ahead and like you can't do what non-athletes do, where they can do it like a project a week of, because it's just going to throw you off. It's going to because with how training plans work, like it's a step a week by week, like stepping up. You can't afford to just not have like just take a week off. You know.
Yeah. That what a wonderful. And you know that better than anybody. You got two masters. You're still swimming. You're still competing, and yet you're walking your talk. You are absolutely managing that whole thing. In fact, even about a month or two ago, we initiated a time management segment skill set for our people doing the work, so that they can deal with pre-calc and deal with college recruiting and deal with junior nationals next week and deal with all of these other things, so that they can compartmentalize, but as you say, balance the scale so that you're doing well in everything.
Yeah, and I will say like making sure you're staying on top of your nutrition and your sleep is going to help you with that
Yeah,
because
of
you're going to
course.
be able to tolerate more stress.
Yes, yeah,
Because you're
yeah.
recovering better, you're able to your body's like running better from better nutrition. So like making sure that you're getting, I would say almost like 8 to 10 hours a week,
Okay.
obviously
Sure.
a night. Obviously, that's it's really hard to do with
Yeah,
morning practices, and
yeah.
sometimes you just have late nights. But on average, making sure you're getting close to that, as close to 10 hours as possible. Making sure you're eating right the right portions of carbs and proteins and vegetables and fruits.
So are you
oftentimes
telling me that chili dogs with cheese are out now at the O?
yeah, unfortunately
Oh,
unfortunately,
wow.
the O is gone too, so
No, I
yeah,
know.
uh,
So disappointed by
I
that, but
know.
I got all my carbs from the O's and the pizzas and everything
Yeah.
else that they would sell us there. Tremendous. So understanding what the nutritional aspects are, sleeping as much as you can, being caught up on school allows you to burn the candle at both ends, so to speak, and still get your training done and getting
Mhm,
visualization and getting all of those things
mhm.
put together so that you can have that one big meet. Before we go any further on this, Jerry, do you remember back? And because many of the people that I'm working with are juniors or seniors in high school and are going to major power conferences to swim next year or the year after. What was it like for you when you went up the road from North Allegheny down to Pitt? It wasn't quite as big a deal as it
Yeah.
is for some people, but what was it like when you were dealing with all of the new aspects of being on your own, which is a whole nother aspect of monitoring your own life and your time, having some free time that you never had before, sort of being away from the parents for the first time in like forever, and you have different choices you get to make. How difficult was that for you to integrate into college?
Yeah, I think it's always pretty difficult. I remember my first semester, I didn't do as well as I would have liked in both areas, and partly that was because of the decisions I made regarding like nutrition and sleep and whatever. So after that, I kind of like learned the impact of making sure I'm staying on top of that recovery.
Sure.
I will say like having those that extra independence, the extra free time, right? It kind of comes down to your own values and your own priorities.
Mhm.
If you are willing to delay the gratification almost and like stay like remember that priority is like you
Sure.
want to get a good night's sleep, you want to eat well, and make sure you're recovering for the next practice. Then maybe you don't go for the fries or the burger at the dining hall. You know,
I hear
like
you.
you
Yeah, of course.
so you just gotta stay stay accountable to to your own goals. And I always say like if you can't stick to your own goals, your own like promises to yourself, like what is your work? You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Interesting. Interesting. And for some reason, Jerry, you tell me that you didn't do what you wanted to go do first semester freshman year GPA wise. Why am I thinking it's a 3.5 or something like that based on what your expectations are? I don't think I was ever quite burdened with those kinds of expectations, Jerry. But I understand where you probably feel that you were at that point in time. I have a good idea of where your GPA has been since that time, based on the fact that you're working on two masters at this point in time. Congratulations to you on that as well. Is there anything else that you would want a junior or senior in college to know about first night freshman year? You're at college, you're unpacked, you got all your stuff ready to go, you got a couple of days before school starts, and you're just trying to find yourself. And you're going up to the pool to meet your new teammates, your new friends, your new recruits, all that stuff. You're doing all that. What else would they be looking for? What else would you suggest them to consider doing as you are entering that aspect of life?
definitely in the first few days before school, um, as a younger kid, kind of or like in high school and middle school, like your schedule's pretty um planned out for
It's
you.
laid out for you. Yeah,
Yeah, right. You have your first period, second period, lunch, recess, and whatever.
exactly.
And then after practice, after school, you got practice right afterwards.
Exactly.
Whatever. And in college, with how schedules work, it's like you just have a class at this period, and then sometimes you get to go home. Other days you
Mhm.
don't get to. So like that consistency is not really there, and you can't really. run on autopilot because you have to remember like each day is slightly different. So I think this is more like practical advice, but making sure you make a schedule, like put it on a calendar,
Sure.
put out when you're going to eat lunch, where you're going to eat lunch, map out where how you're going to walk or get to places, so
Sure.
you don't have to burden yourself every single day with making new
Making
choices.
choices. Yeah, let's think about the real simple stuff, and it takes
Mhm.
too much time. But if you lay it out on a schedule, you know exactly what you're doing,
Yeah,
and you don't have to stress.
exactly. It's name of the game is just finding ways to be organized to reduce stress throughout the day. I think as humans, like we can only tolerate so much stress in a day, um, and you got to just find those little things that help you kind of reduce that.
Exactly. Good deal. Tell me real quickly, what does the next swim meet? What is the next target? What are you visualizing now? Where do you go? You've been to Olympic trials, you've been to NC2As, you've been to ACCs, you've been to US Open. I mean, where do you go now with two masters that you're working on at the same time?
A lot of people ask me this, and I kind of give a similar answer, I think, and it's kind of been always been the reason why I swim and why I compete. And college sports has always just kind of been on top of that, but
Mhm.
I just love swimming and I just want to learn everything about it. And honestly, the motivation right now is just learning, trying to see how much I can keep going. I still think there's some few hot seconds or tenths or hundredths, even if it's like a 1/100th,
Sure.
it's still in the tank and I still think I can do better. And I'm still learning a lot about myself after college through swimming. So
Are you really? That's great. Tell me give me a little insight into what you're learning after college about swimming, through swimming.
yeah, so I've really been trying to see myself as more than just a swimmer. I think
Okay.
that's always been it's been such a big part of my life. And obviously I have an Instagram page and a lot of my connections are through swimming, but it also put a lot of I would put a lot of pressure on myself where if I don't do well to meet, you know, I would not be happy for some days. Like and it's especially like this past trials, like I didn't do as well as I hoped for. And it was actually a struggle watching the Olympics and for the weeks after trials because I was just so down on myself on how I did. I just felt like I
Sure.
just wasted like part of my life when
I
there's so
hear
many
you.
good things that came from it.
I hear you.
So learning about who I am and what I enjoy almost is like it's weird
Yeah.
because like you should figure this stuff out beforehand. But if this is any advice to any like incoming college swimmers, like your worth is not determined by how well you do in the pool. College is really hard. So just and find other things that you enjoy and meet new people and that are not on the team. So there are people who love you, enjoy your company, regardless of how you do in the pool. And that will help your performance at the end of the day.
Good. No, absolutely. I agree. I appreciate you bringing that up because most people don't think about what's after swimming. And so what's after swimming for you is still more swimming. It's still more school. It's still more stuff. So you're sort of in that same place as you've been the last 6, 7 years, but there's somewhere there's an end point. There's some
Mhm.
kind of an end point. Certainly when you get your two masters, you're going to probably go get a job and go to work and go create a career and do that kind of stuff. But you're going to have your last meet somewhere in the next period of time. How long do you think you'll keep swimming?
May call me delusional, but I think even after I don't like take it seriously, I'm probably going to race masters at
Real
local
okay.
masters mates. I really do love swimming. Like it, I still wake up every single day excited to swim, excited to train, excited to race. So
Okay,
I
I
can't really
got
say for sure,
that's no,
but
that's 100% okay. I was just wondering. I know. See, I finished at University of Indiana with Doc Councilman, starting my last race and going for NC2As and all that stuff. And we drove all night home, and we got out at 8 o'clock in Oakland, and I was done. They had already canceled the Olympics, Olympic trials, or I mean Moscow Olympics. So there
Mhm.
wasn't really a reason to go train or do anything. And I was getting a job and a career and getting ready for life in that way, shape, and form. But you have a completely different um, terminology and aspect and focus on what you're doing that didn't exist back when I was there. So I really am learning about where you're at on this aspect and appreciating it very very much. I thank you for coming and being a part of the Psych Sheet podcast again. And I think there's some incredible words of wisdom that you shared with a number of people who are going to be watching this, Jerry, and appreciating what you are bringing to their life. And I want to really thank you for being a good part of this and spending some time with us here today.
No, thank you for inviting me. I just want to share back the things I've learned on this journey and to be able to have a platform I'm really grateful for.
Exactly, exactly. Jerry Chen, you are magnificent. Thank you. You are worthy. You are enough. You belong. You're capable. You're perfect. You're significant. You're all that stuff, Jerry, and way more. And I appreciate you spending a little bit of time with us. I'll be in touch with you again soon. We're going to do this soon. Okay. I got more for you.
Love it. Love it.
All right, man. You take care and enjoy your finals as much as somebody can enjoy your finals. I know they happen today and tomorrow. Have yourself a good time. Do well. Continued best wishes with swimming, and I'll talk to you real soon.
Thank you. See ya.
Take care. Bye now.